Okay, this is going to be a tutorial on how to get a 3D model onto your Framer site without using Spline. We're going to use a cloud service provider. You could use S3. We're going to be using Supabase in this because it feels a little more user-friendly, and Google Model Viewer. So it's all free. The only thing to note is that you will have to have a paid Framer hosting site because we have to use a little bit of custom code in order to get this to work. So with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. So this is Model Viewer. You might have seen this before. We'll come back to this in a moment. We just need to copy some of the code here. But the most complicated part about this is actually going to be getting your file in the cloud. So we just need somewhere where we can access it as a URL. So S3 would be fine. This is Supabase because I think they have a pretty good free tier. I haven't used it that much, but the way this works is we need the storage option. That's what we want. It's just like a static file. We'll name it whatever. And an important part of this is to keep it public because we need to be able to access the URL without having to deal with any authentication. So this could be a deal breaker for some people. I imagine for most people it doesn't matter. You'll probably put this on your portfolio. Nobody's going to be like stealing it, and you're not going to be hitting bandwidth limits, but it will be public. So if somebody gets that URL, they will be able to look at it. So just something to note. But after we create this, we need to upload a file. And this is another thing to note, is that the only type of files that Google supports in Model Viewer are GLB. So GLB files, which if you already have a 3D object, it should be pretty easy to convert it into this type of file. You can do that in Blender if you don't have a program already on your computer. So like a OBJ won't work, for example. And the whole reason we do this is to get this URL. So this will look different depending on what provider you use. This one looks like this. It's got kind of a crazy... it looks pretty disgusting, honestly, but it'll do the job. So we'll copy this. We might come back to this in a minute, actually. Let's pop into Framer. And in Framer, you'll need to go to, so this is what Framer looks like. There's the settings for your whole thing. And this is important not to get totally lost here because there's custom code for your page settings, but there's also custom code at the very top level. And we want to put it here just so we can use it everywhere. So in the custom code, we're copying in, you can see the script tag that was in the model viewer, right? So there's the script tag with no changes to it, and then a little bit of styling to target the actual model viewer HTML item. Without this, you won't be able to control the size. I think there's other properties you can adjust here, like the progress indicator, stuff like this, for example. But anyways, just so we have a little bit of control of the styling, these two things are important. And we'll actually use the real thing here in a second. So what we want to add is a embed. Let's insert an embed. And what we need is to use this HTML option here. And we'll just come over back to this and we'll copy the snippet of code. We don't need a lot of this, so we'll strip out the stuff that doesn't matter, right? Like this alt text doesn't make sense for us because we're going to be putting something else there. So we can just delete that. This environment texture, we don't have that. You could do the same thing if you wanted to host that, just like we're hosting this other file, and you could have an HDR environment. But we'll just keep it dead simple for this. We'll delete pretty much all of this stuff and just leave a couple items. So now what we need to do is replace this GLB. This is like a path, but we'll be using a URL. So we'll come get that URL. We'll go back to Framer and we'll paste it in. So after we do that, nothing will change. You won't see anything. That's kind of an annoying limitation of this, is that you won't ever see anything here in the preview. You have to publish it and then look at it on the actual site. But once you do that, you can see it's here, right? And then you'll be able to do all the other Framer stuff, like target it in a stack and resize it and stuff like this. But yeah, right now it should just be, filling whatever container it's in. One thing to note is you can also apply styling in the HTML tag. So it might get kind of meta. You might have to play around with that a little bit. So if we see this, I believe you can just come in here and add like a width and a height to help it, really behave the way you want. But you might have to fit a little bit. But anyways, that's kind of the core of the idea. Is it's a way to host it so you're not relying on like a Spline embed or any of these other 3D embeds that sometimes they'll have like, a watermark, or they'll be a little funky. You have to like set up cameras and all this stuff. Sometimes you just want something simple. And this works for that. Like, for example, I've got a couple simple things on my website around this. Like there's this like very simple thing. And on the homepage, I was using that exact model, it just like fits in like this other stuff. So anyways, that is how to use, static storage in the cloud and Google Model Viewer to get your 3D object there. It's a little more complicated, maybe in some ways, but it's also a little bit simpler in some other ways. So anyways, hope this helps some people. But if you continue to use Spline, I totally get it. That's pretty convenient stuff too. Anyways, thanks.